My children told me, "Dad, this Christmas is going to be unforgettable." They sent flowers. They hired a caterer for 16. They set the most beautiful table I had seen in years. I put on my best suit and waited for them starting at 6 o'clock in the evening. They never showed. At midnight, my neighbors showed me a photo. There they were, toasting at another house, laughing, as if I didn't exist. But what I discovered afterward, what I found hidden in my own house, made that Christmas unforgettable. For them. If this story stirs something inside you, please subscribe to the channel. Here we share true stories that could happen to anyone. Leave us a comment telling us where you are watching from. My name is Joseph Montgomery Reynolds. I am 79 years old, and I live in a house in Dallas, Texas that smells of dampness and old memories. I spent 3 Christmases alone watching television, with a plate of leftovers on my lap. Martha died 3 years ago. My children have their own lives. Julia, 52, married to a businessman. David, 48, always busy with his work. Linda, 45, divorced and dependent on everyone. On December 15th, a Tuesday, I was drinking cold coffee in the kitchen when the phone rang. It was Julia. "Dad, this year we're going to do things differently. A dinner at your house, all of us together." I was left holding the mug, not knowing what to say. "Are you serious, sweetheart?" She laughed. That laugh she had when she was a little girl. "Of course, Dad. It's about time, don't you think?" I hung up, and I stood there, wondering if I had heard correctly or if loneliness was playing a cruel joke on me. The next day I opened WhatsApp, and there it was. A message from David. "Count us in, Pop. We're bringing the kids." I read it 5 times. Pop. It had been years since he called me that. He used to say it with affection. Now it sounded distant. But he said he would bring the kids. Chloe, my 16-year-old granddaughter, who barely spoke to me. I replied, "I'll be waiting." I put a heart emoji. I regretted it. I deleted it. I put it back. I sent the message. I watched the 2 gray check marks appear, then turn blue. He saw the message, but he didn't reply. I sat down in the living room armchair, the one where Martha used to spend her afternoons knitting. I looked at the ceiling, the water stains I never fixed, and I thought, maybe this time it will be different. Maybe this time it will be true. On Friday, 3 days later, Linda arrived with Matthew. I heard the doorbell while I was washing the breakfast dishes. I opened the door and the boy hugged my legs. He smelled of cheap detergent and cookies. "Grandpa!" I lifted him up even though my back hurt. 7 years old. The last time I saw him he was 5, and he still cried when his mom left him with me. Now he was bigger, quieter. Linda walked in behind him, with deep dark circles under her eyes and messy hair. "Dad, Julia is organizing everything. It's going to be beautiful." I wanted to believe her. But there was something in her voice, something tired, something forced. Matthew ran toward the shelf. "Grandpa, you still have the train." He pointed to the wooden train that Martha bought him at a market. "Sure, son. It's here waiting for you." Linda stood by the door, looking at her phone. She didn't look me in the eye even once. 5 days after the call, Julia started sending me photos. The first arrived at 7 o'clock in the morning, a centerpiece with gold candles and pine branches. "Do you like this, Dad? I'm choosing it for you." I was taking my diabetes pill when the phone vibrated. I opened the photo. It was beautiful, elegant, expensive. I replied, "It's gorgeous, honey." She sent a red heart, then another photo. Ivory tablecloths, napkins folded like swans. "Everything has to be perfect for you, Dad." I saved every photo as if they were jewels. I showed them to Valerie, the lady who helps me at home, when she arrived at 9 o'clock. She cleaned her glasses, looked at the photos in silence. Too much silence. "How lovely, Mr. Joseph," she said in the end. But she didn't smile. I should have asked why, but I didn't, because I was afraid of ruining the moment. A week before, Valerie took me to the Galleria Mall to buy clothes. I hadn't been inside a store in 4 years. The smell of new fabric made me dizzy. "Mr. Joseph, you have to look handsome. If there's going to be a party, you are the king of the night." The salesman, a young man with gel in his hair, showed me suits, one black, one gray. I pointed to a navy blue one. Martha used to say that color made me look younger. I tried it on in the dressing room. The pants were loose. I had lost weight. The jacket hung off my shoulders. But when I saw myself in the mirror, for a second, I saw the man I was 20 years ago. I walked out. Valerie applauded. "You look so handsome, Mr. Joseph." I paid with my card, $4,200. The salesman wrapped the suit in tissue paper. We left. Valerie was quiet on the bus. She looked out the window. "Is something wrong?" I asked her. She shook her head. But I saw how tightly she gripped the bag in her hand. 5 days before Christmas, Julia called me at 11 o'clock at night. I was already in bed, with the lights off. "Honey, did something happen?" She sounded excited, too excited. "Dad, I hired a luxury caterer. I want this night to be perfect. You deserve it." I felt a lump in my throat. "Honey, you didn't have to spend so much." "Dad, please, let me do this for you. You always did everything for us." I hung up. I stayed there, in the dark, listening to the crickets outside. I thought about all the times I paid their tuition, their weddings, their debts, and now she wanted to give me something back. I covered my face with my hands, and I cried, not out of sadness, but out of relief, because I thought this moment would never come. 2 days before, Valerie and I cleaned the house starting at 7 o'clock in the morning. We mopped, dusted, washed windows. I pulled out the big dining room table, the one we only used for birthdays and Christmases when Martha was alive. It was heavy. My back hurt moving it. Valerie helped me push it. We put on the white tablecloth that Martha embroidered 30 years ago. It still had a wine stain from some forgotten dinner. I counted the chairs. 16. I arranged them slowly. I imagined who would sit in each one. Julia here, David there. The grandchildren close to me. Valerie watched me from the kitchen. Her eyes were glistening. "Mr. Joseph, you are a good man." She said it with such a sad voice that it scared me. "Why do you say that, Valerie?" She turned around. "No reason, Mr. Joseph, just, it's true." Christmas Eve. The doorbell rang at 10 o'clock in the morning. I opened it. It was a delivery man with 3 enormous floral arrangements, white roses, red carnations. The scent filled the entire entryway. "Joseph Montgomery?" I nodded. The man handed me a tablet to sign. "Who sent them?" "Julia Montgomery." I almost fell. I carried the arrangements inside. I looked for the card. I opened it with trembling hands. "To the best, Dad. We love you. Julia David Linda." I read it aloud. "We love you." When was the last time I read those words? I called Mr. Tobias, my neighbor. He came dragging his feet. He looked at the flowers. He read the card. His face didn't change. "Joseph," he said with that hoarse voice of his, "take care of yourself." He left without saying more. I stood looking at the closed door. What did he mean? But I didn't have time to think, because there was a lot to do. At 9 o'clock in the morning, on the 24th, a white truck with gold lettering arrived. Premium Catering Dallas. 2 young men got out. One young, dark-haired, with tattoos on his arms. "I'm Ethan," that's Luke." They started unloading boxes, stainless steel trays, crystal glasses, wine bottles with labels I'd never seen, turkey, prime rib, mashed potatoes, salads in sealed containers, desserts covered with clear plastic. I stood in the doorway, watching them go in and out. "All this? Is it for today?" Ethan nodded while setting a tray on the table. "Yes, sir. Your daughter ordered the premium package, food for 16 people." I was speechless. My children spent a fortune, I thought. Ethan looked at me. "You must be very important to your family, Mr. Joseph." I smiled, because at that moment, I believed it. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I bathed with the new soap I bought. I shaved slowly, careful not to cut myself. I put on cologne, the one Martha gave me for my last birthday, and which I never used. I put on the blue suit. I stood in front of the mirror. The pants were still loose, but I looked dignified. Valerie came into the room. "Come, Mr. Ara Joseph, let me help you with your tie." I was always a mess with knots. She adjusted it in silence. Too much silence. When she finished, she took a step back. She looked me up and down. And suddenly, without warning, her eyes filled with tears. "Mr. Joseph, you are a good man. Don't you ever forget that." I was scared. "Valerie, what is it?" She shook her head. "Nothing, just don't forget it." She left the room. I stayed there wondering what the heck had just happened. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, everything was ready. The table set, 16 places, the candles lit, small golden flames that trembled with the air. The house smelled of cinnamon, pine, and roast meat. I sat down in the living room armchair. I looked at the Christmas lights I hung in the window. The photos of Martha on the mantelpiece. Her smile frozen in time. I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath. And, for the first time in 3 years, I felt like my house was a home again. "Martha," I whispered, "I wish you were here to see this." I opened my eyes. I looked at the clock, 5:10. Less than an hour left. My hands were trembling. I didn't know if it was from excitement or fear, because deep down, very deep down, a little voice was telling me, "What if they don't come?" But I silenced it. I silenced it because I needed to believe. At 6 o'clock sharp, I called Julia. The phone rang 3 times before she answered. "Hello?" Her voice sounded rushed. In the background, I heard music, laughter, voices I didn't recognize. "Honey, what time are you getting here?" Brief silence. Then, "Oh, Dad, in an hour. We're just finishing getting ready." Something about her tone didn't sit right with me. "You sounded distracted, as if you were doing something else while talking to me. Where are you?" Another pause. "At home, Dad." "Calm down, we're leaving now." And she hung up without saying goodbye. I was left with the phone in my hand, looking at the black screen. Why was there music if they were getting ready? Why were so many people talking? I shook my head. "Calm down, Joseph. It's Christmas. Everyone is busy." I put the phone away. I went to the kitchen. Ethan was arranging the last trays. "They'll be here soon," I told him. More to myself than to him. At 6:30, I walked around the house for the 10th time that afternoon. I checked the silverware. They were perfectly aligned. I touched a napkin. It was well folded. I looked into the kitchen. Everything in order. I returned to the living room. I looked out the window. The street was quiet. A stray dog trotted by. The neighbors' lights were on. I could see shadows moving inside. Families, together, eating, laughing. I sat down again. Ethan appeared from the kitchen. He had a glass in his hand. "Mr. Joseph, would you like some wine while you wait?" I looked at the glass. The dark red liquid. I shook my head. "No." We'll all toast together when they arrive." He nodded. But I saw him exchange a look with Luke, a look that said something I didn't want to understand. At 7:15, a message arrived. I opened it quickly. Julia. "Dad, small delay. David had to stop and pick something up. We're on our way now." I read the message twice. Small delay. It was fine. It was normal. I took a deep breath. I wrote, "I'll wait for you." I sent the message. The 2 check marks turned blue in seconds. She saw the message, but didn't reply. 5 minutes. 10. Nothing. I left the phone on the table. I looked at the candles. They had already gone down an inch. The wax was dripping down the sides, forming white tears on the silver candelabras. I got up. I went to the kitchen. I drank water. My mouth was dry. My hands were sweating. "Calm down," I repeated to myself. "They are coming now." At 7:45, I noticed that Valerie was sitting in the corner of the kitchen, on the small stool where she always peels potatoes. She had her phone in her hands. She was writing something. Deleting. Writing again. Her fingers were trembling. I approached. "Valerie, are you okay?" She looked up. Her eyes were red, swollen, as if she had been crying. "Yes, Mr. Joseph. Everything is fine." But her voice broke at the end. "Are you sure?" She nodded quickly. Too quickly. She put the phone in the pocket of her apron. She got up. "I'm going to check the drinks." She walked away before I could say anything else. I stood there, a bad feeling growing in my stomach. But I ignored it, because there was still hope. At 8:30, my phone vibrated. An audio message from David. I opened it. "Pop, leaving now. Sorry, traffic is terrible. Christmas, you know." His voice sounded strange, rushed. But in the background, I heard something that made me stop. Music. Not radio music. Live music, like a party. And then, very softly, a woman's voice laughing. I listened to the audio again. I paid attention. Yes, there were definitely people. Many voices. Where was he? In the car or somewhere else? My heart started beating faster. No, I told myself. Don't think about that. He's on his way. They're just passing by somewhere. I put the phone away, but my hands wouldn't stop trembling. At 9 o'clock, Ethan approached with his hands in his pockets. He looked at the table. The turkey that was no longer steaming, the sauces that had solidified, the mashed potatoes with a dry crust on top. "Mr. Joseph, the food is getting cold. Would you like us to reheat it?" I looked at him. He had a kind expression, but also sad, as if he knew something I refused to see. "No," I said. My voice came out harsher than I intended. "They must be arriving soon." He didn't insist. He just nodded. He walked back to the kitchen slowly. I heard him talking to Luke. Whispers. I didn't understand the words, but the tone was clear. They felt sorry for me, and I hated that. I hated being the old man people felt sorry for. At 9:45, my phone vibrated again. Linda. "Dad, sorry, we're running late, but we're almost there. I love you." Those 2 words. I love you. I read them over and over and over. When was the last time Linda told me that? Not in a message, in person. I couldn't remember. I replied, "I'm waiting for you, sweetheart. Everything is ready." I sent the message. I saw the check marks, gray, then blue. She saw the message. 1 minute, 2, 5, 10. No reply. I left the phone on the table. I looked at the 16 empty chairs, the glasses gleaming under the candlelight, the plates waiting like me. And I felt something break inside me, something small but important. At 10:30, Valerie appeared with a plate. Prime rib, a little salad, bread. She put it in front of me. "Mr. Joseph, please eat even a little bit." I looked at the plate. The food looked cold, sad. I want to wait for my children. My voice sounded hollow. She knelt next to my chair. She took my hand. Her hands were rough, calloused. Mr. Joseph, please. There were tears in her eyes. Why was she crying? What did she know that I didn't? I pulled my hand away. They are coming, Valerie. They promised me. She closed her eyes. She nodded. She got up. She took the plate back to the kitchen. And I stayed there, alone, again. At 11 o'clock at night, I heard noise in the kitchen. Ethan and Luke cleaning up. The clinking of cutlery. The scraping of trays being stacked. Plastic wrapping. I didn't move from my chair. I couldn't move. I was paralyzed. Looking at the front door. Waiting, just waiting. One of the candles went out. Then another. The room darkened little by little. Shadows grew on the walls, and I was still there, like a statue, like a fool. I thought about Martha, how she would tell me, Joseph, give it up now, come eat. But Martha wasn't there, and neither were my children. At 11:40, my phone vibrated. I grabbed it so fast it slipped. I caught it before it fell. Julia, a message. Dad, I am so incredibly sorry. There was a last-minute emergency. We couldn't make it. We'll explain tomorrow. I'm sorry. I read the message, once, twice, 3 times. The words moved on the screen. We couldn't make it. We'll explain tomorrow. Sorry, sorry, sorry. I left the phone on the table. I stayed looking at the ceiling, the water stains, the cracks I never fixed. And I felt everything I had been holding on to for 15 days, for 3 years, collapse. Slowly, silently, painfully. At midnight, the bells of St. Jude's Church began to ring. Dong, dong, dong. 12 slow tolls. Christmas, officially. I looked around. The table for 16, the almost extinct candles, the cold plates, the empty glasses, the photos of Martha looking at me from the mantelpiece with those eyes that no longer shone. And me. Just me. In the silence between one chime and the next, I heard something outside. Footsteps. Footsteps on the dry leaves in the yard. My heart jumped. I got up. I walked to the door. My legs were trembling. I opened it. But outside it wasn't my children. It was Mr. Tobias, with a bottle of wine in one hand and a look that said it all. Mr. Tobias walked in without me inviting him. He dragged his feet, as always. 83 years carried in every step. He brought a bottle of red wine with the label half peeled off. He put it on the table. You're not going to spend this night alone, Joseph. His voice sounded hoarse. Tired but firm. I stood next to the door, still with my hand on the doorknob. Tobias, don't you have to? He raised his hand. He cut me off. Sit down. And he sat down first, in the chair I had prepared for David. He uncorked the wine with an old corkscrew he took out of his jacket. The cork came out with a dry pop. He poured 2 glasses. He handed me one. Let's toast, Joseph, to us, the ones who are still here. I took the glass. My fingers trembled so much that the wine moved in circles. To that. The glass clinked and I drank. It tasted bitter, like everything that night. After 15 minutes, Ethan appeared from the kitchen. He still had the white catering apron on. He stood next to the table, with his hands in his pockets. Mr. Joseph, he paused. He looked at Mr. Tobias, then at me. My shift ended 2 hours ago, but if you'll allow me, I'd like to stay. I looked at him, not understanding. Why would he want to stay? He was a stranger, a young man who came to work. Nothing more. You don't have to do that, son. Ethan shook his head. He came closer. He pulled up a chair, the same one I had set for Julia. He sat down. "I want to, Mr. Joseph." There was something in his eyes, something sad. Something I recognized because I carried it inside too. Loneliness. That loneliness that hurts your bones. Ethan poured himself some wine. He took a long sip. He set the glass on the table. "My dad died last year, in November, a month before Christmas." His voice broke a little at the end. He cleared his throat. He continued, "I spent last Christmas alone in my apartment with a pastry bought at 7-Eleven, watching television." He paused. He looked at his glass, and I swore that if I ever saw someone going through the same thing, I wouldn't leave them alone. I remained silent. I didn't know what to say. The words got stuck in my throat. Mr. Tobias refilled Ethan's glass. "You're a good boy." Ethan smiled, sad, but he smiled. Luke, the other server, came out of the kitchen carrying a tray with clean plates. He left it on the table. "If we're going to have dinner, let's do it right." He started serving. Turkey, prime rib, salad, mashed potatoes, everything that had gotten cold. Valerie appeared with napkins. She handed them out in silence. She sat in the chair I had set for Linda. 4 strangers sitting at my table, in my children's chairs. And I was there, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Mr. Tobias raised his glass. "To those who are here, not to those who promised and didn't come." We all raised our glasses, toasted, and started eating. At first in silence, only the sound of cutlery against the plates, chewing slowly, as if we had all the time in the world. After half an hour, Mr. Tobias started telling a story. Something about a donkey that got away from him when he was young, an absurd, ridiculous story. But he told it with so much detail that Luke started laughing. Then Ethan. Even Valerie managed to smile. I listened to them, and for a second, just 1 second, I forgot where I was. I forgot that my children hadn't come. I forgot the empty table. I forgot the pain. I laughed. A small, timid laugh, but real. Mr. Tobias looked at me. He nodded, as if to say, "See, Joseph, you can still laugh." And he was right. I still could. Another half hour passed. We were already on the 2nd bottle of wine. Luke brought this one from the kitchen. There were 6 bottles left. It would be a waste not to drink them. We were talking about football. Luke turned out to be a Dallas Cowboys fan. Mr. Tobias, too. They started arguing about a game from 20 years ago. Ethan and I just listened. I defended the Houston Texans. I was always a Texan fan. Martha used to make fun of me every time they lost. "Joseph, just accept that they're terrible." And I would get angry. But she would laugh. That laugh that filled the whole house. I looked at Martha's photo on the mantelpiece, her frozen smile, and I felt an emptiness in my chest. But this time, I wasn't alone with that emptiness. Valerie was quiet. Too quiet. She was moving the food on her plate without actually eating it. I watched her. Her eyes were red, swollen, as if she had been crying a lot. "Valerie, are you okay?" She looked up. She looked at me. And for a moment I thought she was going to say something important, something that needed to come out. But she shook her head. "I'm fine, Mr. Joseph." She put down the fork. She wiped her hands on the napkin. "It's just that I have to talk to you, but not now." Her voice was trembling. "When?" She looked at the others, then at me. "Tomorrow. I'll tell you everything tomorrow." And she didn't say more. She got up. She went to the bathroom. I heard her crying behind the closed door. And I knew that something bad was about to happen. At 2 o'clock in the morning, we were still there. The conversation had changed. Now we were talking about deeper things. Ethan told us how his father worked 16 hours a day in a mechanic shop. How he never complained. How one day he just didn't wake up. Stroke, 58 years old. He was a good man, Ethan said. He never said no to anyone. He said it with pride, but also with anger. And in the end, nobody came to his funeral. Only me, and 2 co-workers from the shop. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. That's why I'm here, Mr. Joseph. Because my dad was, like you, a good man. And good men don't deserve to be alone. I felt a lump in my throat, because I saw Martha in those words. Sorrow recognizes sorrow. At 2:30, Mr. Tobias got up. His knees cracked when he stood. It's time for me to go. He walked toward the door. I followed him. Before leaving, he turned around. He looked me straight in the eyes. Joseph, your children didn't deserve this dinner. He paused. His face grew serious, more serious than usual. But someday you'll understand why they did this. I frowned. What do you mean? He shook his head. You'll know soon enough. Be patient. He left. The door closed behind him. I stayed there, looking at the closed door. You'll understand why they did this. What the devil did that mean? What did Tobias know that I didn't? I returned to the table. Ethan and Luke were clearing the plates. Valerie was putting the leftover food into plastic containers. I sat down. I watched them work in silence. And I felt something strange. Gratitude. Because these strangers did what my own family didn't. They stayed. They shared. They kept me company. Ethan approached. He put a hand on my shoulder. Mr. Joseph, if you need anything, here's my number. He handed me a napkin with a number written in blue ink. Anything at all, anytime. I took the napkin. I folded it. I put it in my jacket pocket. Thank you, son. He nodded. Thank you for letting us stay. They left at 3 o'clock in the morning. Valerie was the last one. Before leaving, she hugged me, hard, like she never had before. Mr. Joseph, we'll talk tomorrow, please. Don't hate me when you know the truth. She let go. She ran out. I watched her walk away down the empty street. The truth? What truth? I closed the door. I was alone, again, but this time it was different. Because I had eaten. I had laughed. I had shared with people who chose to be there. Not by blood, but by humanity. I looked at the table. There was still the smell of food, wine, and extinguished candles. And in the middle of the silence, Mr. Tobias's phrase kept echoing. You'll understand why they did this. And I felt fear. Fear of what I was about to discover. I woke up on the sofa. I didn't remember lying down there. The sun came through the window, hurting my eyes. I looked at the clock. 8 o'clock in the morning. My head hurt. Wine hangover. I sat up slowly. Everything hurt. My back, my knees, my soul. I looked for my phone. It was on the floor. The screen showed 47 notifications, 47 messages, all from the same night, all while I was sleeping. I opened WhatsApp, and I started reading. Julia. Dad, forgive me. It was terrible what happened. There was an emergency. David. Pop, I'll make it up to you, I promise. Linda. Dad, I'm crying from guilt. Please, forgive me. I kept scrolling down. More messages, more apologies, more empty promises. The words were repeated, as if they had been copied and pasted, as if they had rehearsed them. I read each message slowly, looking for something that sounded real, something that sounded honest. But I didn't find it. All the apologies had the same tone, the same structure. "Sorry, Dad. There was an emergency. We'll make it up to you." Emergency? What emergency could make 3 people cancel at the same time? What emergency is so big that they couldn't even call beforehand? I put the phone down. I got up. I went to the kitchen. Valerie had left coffee made. It was still warm. I poured myself a cup. I drank it standing by the window. Outside, life went on as normal. Neighbors were taking out the trash. A child was walking their dog. And I was there, with 47 lies on my phone. At 10 o'clock, the doorbell rang. I opened it without asking who it was. Julia was standing in the doorway. She was wearing a blue dress, perfect makeup, styled hair, and in her hands, an enormous box wrapped in gold paper. She hugged me before I could say anything. Dad, I am so sorry." She was crying, or pretending to cry. I wasn't sure. She let go. She walked in without waiting for an invitation. She left the box on the table. "Dad, it was horrible. The car broke down on the freeway. We were stranded, no signal, nothing." She looked at me, expecting me to say something. I just watched her. I observed every detail. Her dress had no wrinkles. Her shoes were shining. Her hair smelled like a salon. She didn't look like someone who had spent the night stranded on a freeway. "Where did the car break down?" I asked. My voice came out cold, colder than I expected. Julia blinked. On the highway to Fort Worth." I nodded. "And how did you get back?" She laughed nervously. Well, we called a tow truck. It took hours. It was a disaster, Dad." I approached her. I looked her straight in the eyes. Those eyes that used to look at me with admiration when she was a child. Now I only saw, what? Guilt? Fear? "Why didn't you call me?" She lowered her gaze. "I didn't have a signal, Dad. I already told you." Lie. I knew it at that moment. Because Julia could never lie to me while looking me in the eye. She always lowered her gaze, like now. The doorbell rang again. Julia went to open it. It was David. He was wearing jeans and a white shirt. Expensive watch on his wrist. Dark sunglasses, even though the sun wasn't strong. In his hand, a bag from a jewelry store. Pop. He slapped me on the shoulder, hard, as if nothing had happened. He walked in. He left the bag next to Julia's gift. He took out a small box. He opened it. A watch. Silver. Elegant. "For you, Dad. To make up for last night." I looked at it. I didn't even touch it. "What happened, David?" He took off his glasses. "What happened about what?" His tone was defensive. "Last night. Why didn't you come?" He sighed, as if I were an annoying child. "Dad, understand me. It was a serious family emergency." I stared at him. "What emergency?" David hesitated. Just for a second. But I noticed it. Patricia, my wife. She felt sick, very sick. We had to take her to the hospital." I nodded. "And is she okay now?" He relaxed. Yes, it passed. It was just a scare." I approached him. "Which hospital did you take her to?" His face changed. "Why are you asking that?" I didn't answer. I just looked at him, waiting. The St. Joseph's Hospital." Lie. Patricia had private insurance. She always went to the Baylor Scott and White Hospital. I told him so. David turned pale. "Well, it was closed. It's Christmas, Dad." Another lie. Hospitals don't close on Christmas, and David knew it. Julia intervened. "Dad, please. It passed. We're here now, aren't we?" Her voice sounded desperate, almost pleading. "We came to apologize, to spend time with you." I looked at my 2 children, standing in my living room, with their expensive gifts. their rehearsed excuses, their poorly constructed lies. Where were you last night? Silence. David looked at Julia. Julia looked at the floor. We already told you, David muttered. No, I said. My voice rose. Tell me the truth. Where were you? Julia started crying, this time for real. Dad, please. But she didn't finish the sentence. Because the doorbell rang again. It was Linda and Matthew. The boy let go of his mom's hand and ran toward him. Grandpa! He hugged my legs. I picked him up even though my back hurt. He smelled of soap, of innocence. Matthew, my boy. I held him tight. Too tight. He laughed. Linda walked in slowly. Her eyes were red, swollen. She had been crying a lot. She looked at Julia, then at David, as if waiting for instructions. Julia gave her a look. Linda approached me. Dad, forgive me. Her voice broke. Please forgive me. And she collapsed. She fell to her knees, crying. Matthew got scared. Mom? I put the boy down on the floor. I knelt next to Linda. What, honey? What's wrong? She shook her head. I can't, Dad. I can't keep lying. Julia rushed over. Linda, that's enough. Her tone was an order. Linda looked at her, scared. But Julia! Enough, Linda. David also approached. Linda, calm down. They lifted her between the two of them. They sat her on the sofa. Matthew stayed next to me, scared, confused. I bent down. I looked him in the eyes. Matthew, did you want to come last night? He nodded. His eyes filled with tears. Yes, Grandpa. I wanted to come. I told Mom. But she said no, that we had to go somewhere else. I felt something freeze inside me. Where did you go? Matthew opened his mouth. But Linda screamed. Matthew, be quiet. The boy got scared. He started crying. At 2:00 in the afternoon, they left. All three of them. With their gifts. With their promises to make it up to me next weekend. With their false hugs. With their kisses on the cheek that I didn't feel. I closed the door. I stayed standing there, looking at the gifts on the table. Julia's gold box, David's watch, the stuffed animal Linda brought. I didn't open them. I didn't touch them. I just looked at them, and I felt nothing. Empty. I went to the kitchen. I poured myself water. I drank it slowly. And then the landline rang, the one almost no one uses. I answered. Mr. Joseph Montgomery? It was a woman's voice, professional. Yes, that's me. We're calling from the bank. We're calling to confirm a charge of $47,000 made yesterday on your card ending in 3426. I felt the floor move. If you've made it this far, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. Sometimes, knowing that there are people in the world who understand me gives me the strength to keep telling my story. I asked the woman from the bank to repeat herself. How much did you say? My voice came out broken. She, with that forced patience that call center employees have, repeated. $47,000, Mr. Montgomery. Premium Catering Dallas, $22,000. La Rosa Florist, $8,500. Martinez Decorations, $11,000. Valley Wines and Liquors, $5,500. Each number was a stab. $22,000 on catering, $8,000 on flowers. I paid for all that. I sat down on the floor, literally. My legs stopped holding me up. The phone was still pressed against my ear. Mr. Montgomery, are you still there? I cleared my throat. Yes, I'm still here. My throat was dry, as if I had swallowed sand. Did you authorize these purchases? I closed my eyes. No, I didn't authorize anything. The employee was typing something. I heard the clicking of her keyboard through the phone. I see the charges were made on December 23rd at 11:14 in the morning, all from the same IP, a computer in Highland Park. Highland Park, where Julia lives. The record shows the card was added to the system on December 15th, 10 days ago. The same day, Julia called me to tell me about the dinner. The same day it all started. "Do you want us to block the card, sir?" I didn't answer. I was doing mental calculations, trying to remember. When did she ask me for the card? "Mr. Montgomery?" The woman's voice brought me back. Yes, block it." I hung up. I stayed sitting on the kitchen floor. The refrigerator was buzzing. It was the only sound. I took my wallet out of my pants. Trembling hands, I opened it. There was my card. Visa ending in 3426. The same one the bank mentioned, so they didn't steal it. They just used the data. The numbers, the expiration date, the security code. But how? How did they get that information? I got up. I went to the desk. I opened the drawer where I keep papers. Old bank statements, receipts. And then I remembered. A little over 2 weeks ago, on a Tuesday, 3 days before Julia called me to promise me the dinner, Julia came to visit me. She said she needed to buy a gift for Linda for her birthday. "Dad, can I borrow your card? Mine is blocked and I need to buy it today." I gave it to her without thinking. She left. She came back an hour later. She gave me the card back. "Thanks, Dad. You're the best." And she kissed me on the forehead. It was then. In that hour, she took a picture of my card. She wrote down the numbers. She registered it in the system for the caterer, the florist, everything. And I didn't even suspect. Because she was my daughter. Because I trusted her. Because I was an idiot. I dialed her number. It rang 5 times. Voicemail. "The number you dialed is not available." I hung up. I called again. Voicemail again. I sent a message. "Honey, why did you pay for the catering with my card?" I watched the check marks turn blue. She saw the message, but didn't reply. 5 minutes, 10, 15. After 40 minutes, the answer arrived. "Dad, it was a surprise. We were going to give you the money back." "Really?" I read the message 3 times. "We were going to give you back." Past tense, as if they weren't going to do it anymore. I wrote. "When?" I sent the message. The check marks turned blue. She saw the message, but there was no reply. I waited an hour, looking at the screen, waiting for the 3 dots that indicate someone is typing. But they didn't appear. Nothing. Silence. I called David. Voicemail. Linda. Voicemail. All 3 of them had blocked me or turned off their phones or simply ignored me. I sat in the desk chair. The same one where I used to sit to do accounts when Martha was alive. The same one where we planned vacations. Where we filled out tax returns. Where we were a family. Now I was just a stupid old man who was robbed by his own children. I turned on the computer. It took ages to turn on. It's old. Like me. I opened the browser. I logged into online banking. My username, my password. It took me 3 attempts to remember it. I logged in. I went to transactions. I scrolled down the page. December, November, October. And there they were. Purchases I didn't recognize. October 14th. Irene Boutique. $3,200. I never buy clothes in boutiques. November 2nd. Narciso Beauty Salon. $4,800. I don't go to beauty salons. November 27th. Premium Wine Shop. $5,100. I don't drink expensive wine, I added mentally. Almost $13,000 in 2 months, plus the $47,000 for the dinner. $60,000. $60,000 that Julia spent. without asking, without notifying me. Robbery? No, this wasn't robbery. Robbery is when a stranger takes something from you. This was worse. This was your own blood going into your wallet, taking advantage of your trust, using your name, your money, your love, and then lying to your face, crying, hugging you, telling you I love you, Dad, while emptying your account. I closed the computer. I rested my head in my hands, and I cried. Not from sadness, from rage, pure rage, rage that burned inside me, rage against them, against me, against everything. How didn't I notice? How was I so blind, so stupid? Martha always checked the bank statements. Joseph, you have to check. People are sneaky, but I never did, because I trusted. And now? I heard footsteps outside, someone climbing the porch stairs. Then a soft knock on the door. Mr. Joseph, it's me, Valerie. Her voice sounded shaky. I wiped my tears with the sleeve of my jacket. I was still wearing the blue suit, already wrinkled, already dirty. I got up. I opened the door. Valerie was standing there with red eyes. Redder than in the morning. She had a plastic bag in her hand. Can I come in? I nodded. She came in. She left the bag on the table. Sandwiches, 2 ham sandwiches wrapped in aluminum foil. I thought you hadn't eaten. I hadn't eaten. Not since... I didn't even remember. But I wasn't hungry. Thank you, Valerie. She didn't move. She remained standing by the door. Mr. Joseph, I have to talk to you. I looked at her. There was something different in her expression, something resolved, as if she had made an important decision. Sit down. She shook her head. I prefer to stand, in case you fire me after what I'm going to tell you. I frowned. What are you talking about? Valerie took a deep breath. She put her hands to her face. She left them there for a few seconds. Then she lowered them. Mr. Joseph, I didn't come to work for you just because I needed the job. Silence. Your children hired me 6 months ago, but not just to take care of you. They asked me to look for things. I felt my stomach clench. What kind of things? She bit her lip. Documents, old papers from your work. They said they were important, that they needed to find them. I sat down, slowly, because my legs were trembling again. Valerie continued. They offered me double the salary, $5,000 extra a month if I found the papers. Her voice was breaking. I just wanted to help my daughter. I closed my eyes. And did you find them? She shook her head quickly. No, never. I looked everywhere. The desk, the closet, under the bed. But I never found anything. I opened my eyes. I looked at her. And what did they say? Valerie took out her phone. I'll show you. She opened WhatsApp. She handed me the phone. There they were. Messages from Julia, from David, demanding her, pressuring her, threatening to fire her if she didn't find the documents. I read each message. Valerie, did you find anything? Hurry up. We need those papers before the end of the year. That was from Julia. Another from David. If the documents don't show up, we're screwed. Valerie has to check everywhere. The basement, the attic, wherever. I kept scrolling down. More messages, more pressure, more threats. The last one was from 2 days ago, from Julia. Last chance, Valerie. If you don't find them this week, we're firing you, and we won't pay you your bonus. I looked up. Valerie was crying. I didn't want to, Mr. Joseph, truly. But after meeting you, after seeing how you are, I couldn't continue. That's why I quit. And that's why I have to show you something else. She took out her phone. She opened Instagram. Patricia's wife posted this last night at 10 o'clock at night. She handed me the phone, and what I saw destroyed me. It was a photo of a table, huge, with a red and gold tablecloth, centerpieces with white candles, fine china plates, crystal glasses full of wine. Everything perfect, everything elegant, everything festive. But what made me stop breathing wasn't the table. It was the people. In the background, a little out of focus, but recognizable. My 3 children. Julia in a blue dress, the same one she was wearing this morning when she came to apologize. David in a white shirt and red tie. Linda in a sparkling Christmas sweater. All 3 with glasses in their hands, toasting. And the worst of all, was that they were smiling. Not forced smiles, but real smiles. Genuine, happy, as if nothing had happened, as if I didn't exist. I enlarged the photo with my fingers. I zoomed in on the image. I looked for every detail. Behind my children, there were more people. People I didn't know. Men in expensive suits, women in party dresses, everyone toasting, everyone laughing. In the corner of the photo, you could see part of a living room, large, with a fireplace, with a giant Christmas tree, with gold lights everywhere. This wasn't an impromptu gathering. This wasn't an emergency. This was a planned party, with time, with detail, with dedication. And my children chose to be there, instead of with me. I looked at the time of the post. 21 hours ago, it was 8 o'clock at night when I saw Valerie's phone. So the photo was uploaded at 11 o'clock at night on the 24th. When I was sitting alone, waiting. I scrolled down to read the description. Our family Christmas tradition. 15th consecutive year celebrating together. Ibarra Stone family. Christmas 2024. I read the phrase again. 15th consecutive year. 15 years. They had been going to that house for 15 Christmases. To that party. With those people. While what was I doing? I counted mentally. 15 years ago was 2009. Martha was still alive. We had Christmas dinner at home. They came, or so I thought. Did they come? I tried to remember. 2009, 2010, 2011. Some Christmases they did come, but they arrived late. They left early, always with excuses. We have another dinner, Dad. The kids are tired. We have to get up early tomorrow. And I believed them. Because they were my children. Because I never imagined they were lying to me. I gave the phone back to Valerie. I couldn't keep looking. It hurt. Physically. As if someone had opened my chest and was squeezing my heart with their hands. Valerie put the phone away. I'm sorry, Mr. Joseph. I didn't know if I should show you. But I thought you had the right to know the truth. I nodded, without looking at her, looking at the floor, the stains on the carpet, a coffee stain from months ago, another one from tomato sauce. Martha always said we should change that carpet, but we never did. And now she wasn't here, and the carpet was still there, old, stained, like me. It's the Ibarra Stone family. Gustavo's, Julia's husband, and Patricia's, David's wife. My heart stopped. Ibarra Stone. The name resonated in my head like a bell. My God, I whispered. It's the same company. The same one I audited. Valerie looked at me, not understanding. You know them? I nodded slowly. I know them. I know them very well. Construction. The word resonated in my head. I worked in construction auditing years ago. before retiring. And there was one I investigated. In 1998, Ibarra Stone, overbilling, misappropriation of funds, false documents. I made a complete report, with evidence, with testimonies. It was ready to be delivered to the district attorney. But then David graduated. He needed a job. And the owner of Ibarra Stone made me a proposal. Keep the report to yourself. Don't say anything. And I'll give your son a job. I accepted. Because I wanted to help David. Because I thought a job in a big company would give him a future. I didn't know it would give him this. I looked at Valerie. Do they know that I have documents from that company? Valerie hesitated. Then she nodded. Yes. That's why they asked me to look for them. They said they were old papers from your work, that they could cause them problems. Problems. Of course, because if someone found that report, if someone delivered it, the company would fall. And with it, David, and Gustavo, and their families, and their money, and their status, everything. That's why they needed me quiet. That's why they needed me dead. No. Worse, they needed me forgotten, abandoned, voiceless, insignificant. An old man with dangerous papers who was better kept happy, but not too close, never too close. And you never found them? Valerie shook her head. Never, Mr. Joseph. I looked everywhere. But if you have them, you hid them very well. I smiled, without joy, because I did have them, and I had hidden them well. Martha helped me. She always knew that someday we would need them. Valerie, why are you telling me this now? She wiped her tears with the back of her hand. Because I can't live with the guilt anymore, Mr. Joseph. You are a good man. You don't deserve this. You don't deserve to be used, to be deceived, to be abandoned on Christmas just because they're afraid you'll discover something. Her voice broke at the end. I quit, today, now. I can't keep working for people like that, even though I need the money, even though my mom is sick. There are things you just don't do. And spying on an elderly man, that's one of them. I got up, I walked toward her. I hugged her. She was stiff at first. Then she let go. She cried on my shoulder. And I let her. Because I understood. I understood that she was a victim too. Like me. We stayed like that for a few minutes. Until she calmed down, she pulled away, she wiped her face with her hands. I'm sorry, Mr. Joseph, I didn't mean to. I raised my hand. You don't have to apologize. You did the right thing by telling me the truth. She nodded. Do you hate me? I shook my head. No. I hate the person who used you, not you. Valerie took an envelope out of her bag. This is for you. Screenshots of all the messages, of the conversations with your children, everything, in case you ever need them. I took the envelope. It weighed little, but I felt like it weighed tons. Thank you. She walked toward the door. Before leaving, she turned around. Mr. Joseph, one more thing. That photo, there are more photos on the lady's profile from previous years, if you want to see them. She didn't finish the sentence, but I understood. I understood that if I looked, I would find proof of years of lies. When Valerie left, I took out my phone. I opened Instagram. I don't use that app much, but I have it. I searched for the profile. Remedies Ibarra Stone. There she was, a woman about 60 years old. Blonde hair, designer glasses, perfect smile. I entered her profile. Photos of trips, restaurants, parties. I scrolled down. I looked for posts from December, and I found them. Christmas, 2023. A photo similar to this year's. Elegant table, people toasting, and in the background, my children. Christmas, 2022, the same. Christmas, 2021. There they were. I kept scrolling down. 2020, 2019, 2018. In all of them, in all the Christmases, my children were there, while I ate dinner alone, or with Martha, believing they had commitments, believing their lies. I enlarged the 2019 photo. Martha was still alive that year. We spent Christmas together. The children said they would come, but they canceled at the last minute. Dad, Julia got sick. We should postpone it. I believed them. I cooked turkey. Martha made her special stuffing. We ate dinner alone. She didn't say anything, but I saw sadness in her eyes. And now, looking at this photo, I understood. She knew. Martha knew they were lying. And she never told me anything. Why? To protect me? To not hurt me? I closed Instagram. I left the phone on the table. And I stayed there, sitting in the dark, because night had fallen and I hadn't turned on the lights, sitting in the shadows, as I had been for the last 15 years, in the darkness of the lies, without knowing it. I looked at the ceiling. The water stains looked bigger in the dark. Martha, I whispered. You knew, and you didn't tell me. Silence. Only the buzzing of the refrigerator, the ticking of the clock, the sound of the night coming through the window. 15 years, Martha. They lied to me for 15 years, and I, like an idiot, waiting, always waiting. I felt rage, but also clarity, because now I understood. I understood why Valerie was looking for documents, why they left me alone on Christmas, why they used my card without asking, why everything. Because I was a threat, and threats must be kept controlled, kept away, insignificant. And that's what I was to them, insignificant. An old man with dangerous papers who was better kept happy. But not too close, never too close. I didn't sleep, I didn't even try. I stayed sitting in the living room armchair, watching the shadows move on the ceiling every time a car passed by on the street. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I got up. My body ached, my back, my knees. But there was something that hurt more. The need to know, to understand. I went to the desk, that small room at the back of the house where I kept old papers, invoices, receipts. Things Martha said we would need someday. I turned on the light. The bulb flickered before lighting up completely. It smelled of dust, of old paper, of stopped time. I opened the metal filing cabinet, the one I bought in 1983. The drawers squeaked. I searched to the bottom, under blue folders, under yellowed folders, until I touched something hard. A thick folder, brown, with an elastic band around it. I pulled it out. The elastic band snapped when I pulled it. It was dry, old. I placed the folder on the desk. I dusted it off with my hand. And there it was, in black letters written with marker. Ibarra Stone Audit, 1998. Confidential. I opened the folder. The paper rustled, yellowed, brittle, but legible. Page after page of numbers, of calculations, of evidence. Overbilled contracts. Works that cost triple the budget. Cheap materials reported as premium. Payments to public officials. Everything documented. Everything proven. I turned the pages slowly, remembering. I had spent 6 months investigating this company. 6 months gathering evidence. Photos, testimonies, bank statements. Everything was there. ready to be delivered to the district attorney. But I never did, because they made me an offer. I closed my eyes, and I went back to that day. October of 1998. David had just graduated with a degree in civil engineering. He was looking for work. He sent resumes everywhere, but no one hired him. He was depressed, angry at the world. I wanted to help him. One day, the owner of Ibarra Stone called me. "Mr. August Stone, Mr. Montgomery, we need to talk." We met in a restaurant. He arrived in a gray suit, gold watch, shark smile. "I know you have a report about my company." I didn't say anything. He continued, "I propose something to you. Keep that report to yourself. Don't say anything, and I'll give your son a job, good salary, benefits, a future." I looked into his eyes, cold, calculating. "You want to buy my silence?" He smiled. "I want to help a father help his son." And I, God forgive me, accepted. I thought I was protecting David, giving him an opportunity, a good job that would launch him. I thought that after a few years, when he was established, he could change companies, make his own way. But it didn't happen like that. David stayed. He rose in position. He married Patricia, the Stone's daughter. He became part of them. And I just watched them from afar, proud, thinking my son had succeeded. I didn't understand that he hadn't succeeded. He had sold himself, just as I sold myself that day in the restaurant. I opened my eyes. I looked at the documents on the desk, evidence of corruption, of crimes, and I kept them. I hid them. I protected them for 26 years, to protect my son. But now that son had abandoned me on Christmas, used my money, sent a spy to my house. Was that what I protected? I got up. I went to Martha's closet. I opened it. Inside were still her dresses, her shoes, her scent of lavender that refused to leave. I looked on the top shelf behind the blankets, and I touched something. A box. Wooden. Not very big. I took it down. It was heavy. It had a small clasp, closed with a padlock. But the padlock was open, as if Martha wanted me to find it easily. I opened the box. Inside there was a flash drive. Black, small, and stuck on the lid of the box, a yellow post-it note with Martha's handwriting. That round handwriting I always had to struggle to read. It said, "Joseph, if something happens to me, this is for you. I love you. M." I felt a lump in my throat. I took the flash drive. My hands were trembling. I returned to the desk. I turned on the computer. I inserted the flash drive. A folder appeared. For Joseph. Inside, a video file. I double-clicked. The screen turned black. Then she appeared. Martha, sitting in this same chair, at this same desk. But different, thinner, paler, shorter hair, whiter. It took me a second to place the time, by the clothes she was wearing, by the calendar on the back wall. This was recorded in October, 2 months before she died. She looked straight at the camera, straight at me. "Joseph," she said, and her voice broke me, because it was her voice, the one I missed every night. "If you are seeing this, it is because I am gone, and because you discovered something." She paused. She took a deep breath. She looked tired, but her eyes were clear, lucid, determined. "Our children know about the documents." My heart stopped. Martha continued. "Julia asked me 4 months ago, in June. She came one day, alone, without the children, and she told me, 'Mom, I need you to tell me where the papers Dad kept from Gustavo's company are.' I asked her, 'What papers?' And she got angry. 'Don't pretend, Mom. The audit papers. The ones Dad never turned in. Martha wiped a tear. I told her I didn't know where they were. That you never told me. She didn't believe me. Pause. She came back 2 weeks later. This time with David. They both cornered me in the kitchen. David yelled at me. He told me that if I didn't hand over the papers, they were going to sue us. Us. You. That we were going to lose the house. Everything. I saw Martha trembling in the video, and I felt rage. But that wasn't the worst, Joseph. Martha moved closer to the camera. The worst was when Julia said, Mom, if you don't help us, we're going to have to commit you. The doctor says you show signs of dementia. We can sign the papers. You won't be able to stop it. I felt my blood run cold. Martha in the video was crying, but with rage, with dignity. They threatened me, Joseph. Our daughter threatened to lock me up, to take away my freedom, over some papers. She wiped her tears. And the worst is that David nodded. Both of them agreed. Only Linda wasn't there. But the other two, our children, they threatened me as if I were their enemy. I paused the video. I couldn't continue. I got up. I walked in circles. I breathed. I tried to calm down. But I couldn't. My daughter, my son, threatening their own mother. Sick, weak, defenseless. I hit play again. Martha had regained her composure. I didn't give them anything, Joseph. I told them I didn't know. And after that, they stopped visiting me. For 2 months. Until I got worse. Then they came back. But they didn't ask me about the papers anymore. They just came, looked at me, and left. She paused for a long time. I don't recognize them anymore, Joseph. I see their faces, I hear their voices, but they are not our children. I don't know who those people are. I don't know what happened to them, or maybe they were always like this and we didn't want to see it. I don't know. She shook her head. I only know that I am afraid. Afraid of what they might do to you when I'm gone. Because they are going to come back looking for those documents. And this time I won't have a way to protect you. Martha leaned toward the camera. That's why I recorded this. So you know the truth. So you understand what kind of people they are. And to ask you something. She wiped her tears. Keep those documents, Joseph. Protect them. Hide them well. Because someday you're going to need them. Not to attack, but to defend yourself. They are going to come back. They are going to pressure you. They are going to manipulate you. And when they do, when you feel like you're alone, remember that I left you this. Remember that I knew. Remember that I love you. And that I always trusted you. The video ended. The screen turned black. And I stayed there, looking at my reflection in the turned-off monitor. An old man, with tears running down his cheeks, with a broken heart. I closed the laptop. I looked at the documents on the desk, the brown folder, the flash drive, Martha's words resonating. They are going to come back. They are going to pressure you. And I understood. I understood everything. They didn't abandon me on Christmas out of cruelty. They abandoned me because I am a threat. Because as long as I live, as long as I have those documents, they are not safe. Their money is not safe. Their status is not safe. Their future is not safe. I am the only one who can destroy them. And they know it. That's why they pushed me away. That's why they isolated me. That's why Valerie was searching my house. That's why they used my card without fear. Because for them, I was already dead. All that was missing was the burial. On December 27th, a Friday, the phone rang at 9 o'clock in the morning. I was drinking coffee. Bitter, without sugar, like I liked it before the doctor told me I had diabetes. But I didn't care anymore. I saw the name on the screen, Julia. I hesitated. I let it ring 3 times, 4. On the 5th ring, I answered. "Hello?" My voice came out hoarse. I had cried so much last night that my throat hurt. "Dad?" Her voice sounded sweet. Too sweet. Like poisoned honey. "How are you?" I didn't answer. Silence. She continued. "Dad, please come for brunch on Sunday. At my house. We want to fix this. We want to talk as a family." Family. That word made me laugh. But I didn't laugh. "Will everyone be there?" She hesitated. "Yes, Dad. Everyone. David, Linda, the children. Everyone." I hung up without saying whether I was going or not. Half an hour later, Mr. Tobias knocked on my door. I had told him everything. The documents, Martha's video, the threats, everything. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he just said, "Go to that brunch." I looked at him surprised. "Why?" He poured himself coffee. He sat down. "Because you need to see their faces. You need to hear them lie one more time. So you have no doubt. So that when you make your decision, you know it's the right one." He was right. "But don't go alone." He looked me straight in the eyes. "Take me. I'll say I'm your friend. That you wanted company. They won't be able to refuse without looking bad." I nodded. "And what are we going to look for?" Tobias smiled. Without joy. "The truth. It always comes out. You just have to know how to look." On Sunday, I called Julia. "I'm coming, but I'm bringing a friend." Uncomfortable silence. Then, "Of course, Dad. Whatever you want." On Sunday, the 29th, at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, Tobias and I arrived in Highland Park, the rich area of Dallas. Huge houses, tall fences, private security. Julia's house was a white mansion with columns. Perfect lawn. Fountain at the entrance. Tobias whistled. "Your daughter lives well." Too well, I thought. I rang the doorbell. A maid opened. "Mr. Joseph, please come in." We entered. The living room was enormous. Marble floor, Italian furniture, paintings that probably cost more than my house. Julia appeared. White dress, pearl necklace, perfect smile. "Dad." She hugged me. She smelled of expensive perfume. She let go. She looked at Tobias. "This is my neighbor, Mr. Tobias Renteria." Julia extended her hand. "Nice to meet you. Please, come in." She took us to the dining room. David was already there. With Patricia, Linda with Matthew, everyone smiling, everyone acting as if nothing had happened. The brunch was a play. David talked about new projects at the company, big contracts, expansion to Houston. He spoke with that tone successful people use, full of confidence, of arrogance. Julia interrupted. "And we're also planning a family trip to Europe in March." She looked at me. "We want you to come, Dad. Paris, Rome, Spain." I nodded, without speaking, just observing. Linda, the quietest one, suddenly said, "Dad, I'm thinking of moving, closer to you, so we can see each other more often." All lies, all so obvious, so rehearsed. Tobias ate in silence, but I saw him observing. Every gesture, every word, every look they exchanged between them, everything was fake, like cardboard sets on a cheap stage. After brunch, Julia stood up. "Dad, will you come with me for a moment? I want to show you something." I got up. Tobias looked at me. I nodded slightly. I followed Julia. She took us to her study, A room with wooden shelves, books she probably never read, a large desk. She closed the door. Her expression changed. The smile vanished. "Dad, I need to ask you for something." She sat behind the desk. I remained standing. "What?" My voice came out colder than I expected. She noticed the tone. She hesitated. Then she continued. "Mom left you some documents from your old job. I need those papers. For a lawyer, it's important." I waited. I didn't say anything. She got nervous. I looked at her straight in the eyes. "What documents?" Julia leaned forward. "Dad, don't play dumb." Her tone changed, harder. "The documents from the Ibarra Stone Company. Mom said you kept them." I pretended confusion. "Your mom told you that? When?" She swallowed. "A while ago, before she died." Lie. Martha never told her where they were, only that they existed. "I don't know what you're talking about, honey." I turned to leave. She got up quickly. She walked around the desk. She blocked my path. "Dad, please, it's important, very important." Her voice rose in volume. "From the Ibarra Stone Company. Your audit from 1998. I know you have it." I looked at her, and for the first time I saw fear in her eyes. Real fear. "Why do you need them?" Julia closed her eyes. She took a deep breath. When she opened them, there were tears, but calculated tears. Fake. "Dad, it doesn't matter why. Just give them to me." I shook my head. "Yes, it matters. If you want me to give you something, I have to know why." She changed tactics. She slumped into the chair. She started crying. "They're going to sue us, Dad. Gustavo, David, everyone. There's an investigation. The district attorney is reviewing old contracts. And if they find those documents of yours, they're going to take everything from us. The house, the money. They're going to put David in jail." She cried louder. "Those documents can save us. We can destroy them, so no one finds them. Please, Dad." I remained silent, watching her act, because that's what it was. Acting. Martha was right. I didn't recognize this woman anymore. "I don't have anything," I said finally. Julia stopped crying. She looked at me with pure hatred. "Lie. I know you have them. Mom told me you kept them. Somewhere in the house." She walked toward me. "Give me those papers, Dad, or—" She stopped. "Or what?" I challenged her. She lowered her gaze. "Nothing, just, please." I left the study. I returned to the dining room. David was talking on the phone in the hallway. He lowered his voice when he saw me pass. But I managed to hear, Calm down. We're going to convince him." Pause. "If not, there are other ways." He turned around. He didn't see me standing behind him. "Yes, we can declare him incompetent. He's old. He has diabetes. The lawyer said it's easy." I felt my blood freeze. David continued. "Once we have guardianship, we can look for everything we want in his house, legally." I went back to the dining room. Tobias saw my face and stood up. "I think it's time for us to leave, Joseph." Julia came out of the study. "Dad, wait, we haven't had coffee." Tobias spoke for me. "Mr. Joseph doesn't feel well. We better go." We walked toward the door. David appeared. He quickly put his phone away. "Pop, are you leaving already?" I didn't answer him. Linda approached. "Dad, I'm sorry. For everything. Truly." I looked at her. She was the only one who seemed genuine. But still, she had abandoned me. I nodded. Without speaking, we left. We got into Tobias's car. We didn't speak until we were far away. When we turned the corner, Tobias said, "Did you hear anything?" I nodded. "They want to declare me incompetent." Tobias gripped the steering wheel. "Sons of bitches!" We arrived at my house. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I sat down on the armchair. Tobias sat in front of me. "What are you going to do?" I didn't answer. I didn't know. Tobias continued, "Joseph, I know things. Things I haven't told you." I looked at him. "What things?" He sighed. "In 1998, when you did that audit, I was your witness. Do you remember?" I blinked. I tried to remember. And then, yes. Tobias worked at the same firm. He signed some documents. "I kept copies too," he said, "of everything, because I knew that someday you would need them." He got up. "Give me 2 days. I'm going to look for them. And we'll see what we do." He left. I stayed there, looking at the ceiling, thinking about David's words. Other ways. That night, I didn't sleep. Again, I stayed seated, thinking, remembering. The threats to Martha. The money stolen from my card, the dinner I paid for myself, the 15 Christmases of lies, the photos, Valerie's messages, the plan to declare me incompetent. Everything, every lie, every betrayal, every blow. And something inside me hardened. It was no longer sadness. It was no longer pain. It was determination. Because I understood what Martha was telling me in that video. She didn't leave me those documents to keep them. She left them for me to use them, to defend myself. And that's what I was going to do. But first I needed more. More proof, more evidence, more weapons. Because if I was going to face them, I had to be sure to win. I got up. I went to the desk. I took out the documents, and I started reading. Again. This time looking for something specific, something I could use. And I found it. On December 30th, a Monday, at 10 o'clock in the morning, I heard the door. Not the doorbell. The door. As if someone pushed it with their shoulder. I went to open it. It was Matthew. Alone, without Linda. The boy's eyes were red, swollen. He had been crying a lot. "Grandpa." He threw himself into my arms. I picked him up. He weighed more than I remembered. 7 years old. So small, so fragile. "What happened, my boy? Where is your mom?" He shook his head. "I ran away. I took the bus Mom always takes. The one that stops in front of your house," I remembered. "Mom was talking on the phone. She didn't see me leave." I sat him on the sofa. I knelt in front of him. My knees cracked. They hurt. But I didn't care. "What did you hear, Matthew?" The boy breathed in gasps. "Mom was talking to Aunt Julia. They said ugly things." I wiped his tears with my thumb. "What did they say?" Matthew looked at me with those brown eyes that looked so much like Martha's. "They said you have papers. Important papers. And that if you don't give them to them, they're going to say you're crazy." I felt something clench in my chest. "They said that? That I'm crazy?" Matthew nodded. "Yes," Aunt Julia said, "if he doesn't give us the documents, we'll talk to Dr. Elizondo. He can sign the papers. We'll say he has dementia, Alzheimer's, whatever." And Mom said, "But Julia, he's our dad." And Aunt Julia shouted, "It's him or us, Linda. If we don't do something, we're going to lose everything." The boy hugged me. "Grandpa, are you crazy?" I shook my head. I hugged him tight. "No, my boy, I'm not crazy." Matthew cried against my shoulder. "Then why do they want to take your house?" I closed my eyes. Because it was easier to rob a demented old man than to face their own crimes. That's what I wanted to tell him. But I couldn't. He was just a child. Don't worry, Matthew. Nobody is going to take anything from me. The boy pulled away. He looked at me. Promise? I nodded. Promise. Incompetency, that was the word. Declare me incompetent, legally insane, and thus take control of my house, of my things, of my documents. They could search without my permission, destroy evidence, erase all trace, and I couldn't do anything. Because I would be locked up in some nursing home, medicated, silent, forgotten. It was the perfect plan. And they almost did it to me. Almost. But Matthew had just given me the confirmation I needed. They were no longer suppositions. It was real. My children were conspiring to destroy me. I gave Matthew juice, cookies. I sat him in front of the television. I called Linda. She answered on the second ring. Dad? Her voice sounded nervous. Matthew is with me. Silence, then. What? How did he get there? Walking, I imagine. He's fine. But I need you to come, now. I hung up. I didn't want to talk to her anymore on the phone. Half an hour later, another visitor arrived. A knock on the door. I opened it. It was Chloe, my 16-year-old granddaughter, David's daughter. Tall, thin, with black hair pulled back in a ponytail. She had a backpack on her back, and in her hand, an old cell phone. One I recognized immediately. Grandpa. She walked in quickly. She looked around, as if she was afraid someone had followed her. Chloe, what are you doing here? Do your parents know you came? She shook her head. No. And they can't know. She closed the door. She took the cell phone out of her pocket. Grandpa, I found this. In Dad's desk drawer. It was hidden. Under some papers. She handed me the cell phone. It was Martha's old iPhone. The one she used before I bought her a new one 4 years ago. I thought she had thrown it away. Your dad had this? Chloe nodded. Yes. I found it by accident. I was looking for a stapler and there it was. I turned on the cell phone. It still had battery. I opened the messages, and what I saw broke my soul again. Conversations between Martha and a name. Lico Bautista Valdez, attorney. I opened the chat. The messages were from June, 3 years ago, months before Martha died. Martha, attorney, I need legal advice. It's about my daughter Julia. Reply, tell me, Mrs. Montgomery. Martha, she has been taking money from our accounts. Without permission, small amounts. But constant. I kept scrolling down, more messages. The lawyer asking for details, Martha sending screenshots of bank statements, unauthorized transfers, strange withdrawals. The lawyer, Madam, this is fraud. We can proceed legally. Martha, I don't want to put my daughter in jail. I just want her to stop. But there was a final message from the lawyer. Madam, I prepared the documents. If you sign, we can sue for misappropriation. There was no reply from Martha. That was the last conversation. I left the cell phone on the table. I looked at Chloe. Did you read this? She nodded. There were tears in her eyes. Yes, Grandpa. I read everything, and I can't believe it. Grandma was going to sue my aunt, her own daughter. She sat on the sofa. She covered her face with her hands. And now I understand why Grandma was always sad. Why she cried when she thought no one was looking. Because she knew. She knew that her children were betraying her. I sat next to her. I put my hand on her shoulder. Chloe, why did you bring this to me? She lowered her hands. She looked at me with those eyes that looked so much like her grandmother's. Because it's not right, Grandpa. What they're doing is not right. And I don't want to be like them. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, my cell phone rang. "Unknown number," I answered. "Mr. Joseph?" It was a young male voice. It took me a second to recognize it. "Ethan?" "The server from Christmas dinner." "Yes, sir. Sorry to bother you, but I investigated something, and I think you should know." I put the phone on speaker. "Tell me." Ethan took a deep breath. "I have a friend. He works for the anti-corruption district attorney. I told him about you, about the dinner, and he told me something important." Pause. "The Ibarra Stone Company is being investigated. For 6 months now. For irregular contracts, bribes, diversion of public funds." I felt my heart speed up. "And what does that have to do with me?" Ethan continued. "My friend says they need evidence, old documents from previous audits, to prove that this has been going on for years, and I told him that maybe you had something." Silence, long, heavy. "Mr. Joseph, if you have documents from that company, the district attorney needs them. They could be the key to closing the case." I looked at the documents on the desk. The brown folder? The evidence from 1998. "Is your friend trustworthy?" I asked. "Yes, sir, completely. He's honest. One of the few." I nodded, although Ethan couldn't see me. "Tell him to come. Tomorrow, here to my house. To bring whatever he needs to verify the documents." I heard the surprise in his voice. "Seriously, Mr. Joseph?" "Seriously." I hung up. Chloe was looking at me. "Grandpa, are you going to hand over the documents?" I looked at her. "I'm going to do what your grandmother asked me to do. Defend myself." She smiled. For the first time in years, I saw pride in the eyes of someone in my family. Real pride. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, there was a knock on the door. It was Mr. Tobias. He was carrying a cardboard box, heavy. He set it on the table with a dull thud. "Joseph, I told you I kept copies." He opened the box. Inside there were folders, documents, photos, everything organized, everything labeled. "Remember 1998, when we did the audit together?" I nodded. Vaguely. There had been so many cases, so many companies. I signed as a witness, as a secondary auditor, and I kept everything, because I knew. He looked at me. "I knew that someday Mr. August Stone was going to try to erase you. You, the evidence, everything." He took out a folder. He opened it. "Here are the signatures. Mine, yours, the official stamps. This cannot be denied. It cannot be destroyed. Because there are 2 copies, yours and mine." I felt something I hadn't felt in days. Hope. "Why did you never tell me you had this?" Tobias smiled. "Because I hoped you would never need it. But here we are." At 6 o'clock in the evening, the last person arrived. Attorney Gerald O'Connell, Martha's lawyer, a man 61 years old, bald, with thick glasses, wrinkled gray suit, old leather briefcase. He walked in. He greeted me with a firm handshake. He sat down. He opened his briefcase. He took out a folder. "Mr. Joseph, Martha came to see me 3 years ago, 2 months before she died. She left me very clear instructions. If any of your children tried to declare you incompetent, if they tried to take your house, if they tried anything, I had to act." He opened the folder. Inside were legal documents. "This is a power of attorney, signed by Martha, in my favor, to legally represent you in case you couldn't do it yourself." He showed me the signature. It was Martha's. I recognized her handwriting. "And this," he took out another document, "is a sworn declaration from Martha, stating that you are in full mental faculties, signed before a notary, dated 3 years ago." I looked at all the documents on my table. The audits, Tobias's copies, Martha's messages on the cell phone, the lawyer's declarations, the testimonies of Chloe and Matthew. And I understood. Martha prepared everything. She knew this was going to happen. She knew our children would try to destroy me. And she left me the weapons to defend myself. Not just the company documents, but legal protection, witnesses, allies, everything. I looked at Tobias, at Gerald, at Chloe sitting on the sofa, at Matthew watching television, at Ethan waiting on the other end of the phone. And I realized I wasn't alone. Martha made sure of that. She left me an army, small but loyal. And now it was time to use it. "Attorney," I said, "prepare everything. Tomorrow we're going to make a move." Gerald smiled. "What do you have in mind, Mr. Joseph?" I looked at him. "I'm going to a party. A New Year's Eve party. December 31st, New Year's Eve. At 8 o'clock at night I got dressed, the same blue Christmas suit, freshly washed, ironed, white shirt, black tie. I looked in the mirror. I was no longer the same man who waited for his children sitting at an empty table. This man had purpose. He had direction. He had contained rage. Tobias arrived at 8:30, also in a suit. "Ready?" I nodded. I took the brown folder, the same one from the audit, heavy, full of truths. "Ready?" Chloe and Matthew stayed home, with Valerie, who had come back. Not as an employee, but as a friend. We got into Tobias's car. He drove in silence. Highland Park. The streets were lit, houses decorated for the new year. We arrived at the Stones' mansion. The party had already started. Music, lights, luxury cars lined up on the street. We got out of the car. We walked toward the entrance. There was a security guard, young, corpulent, black suit, earpiece. He stopped us. "Good evening. Name?" I stood in front of him. "Joseph Montgomery Reynolds. I am Julia Montgomery's father." The guard checked a list on his tablet. He shook his head. "You're not on the list, sir." Tobias intervened. "We're family. We don't need to be on the list." The guard didn't move. "I'm sorry. Only those on the list may enter." I took out my cell phone. I called Julia. She answered on the third ring. Loud music in the background. "Dad?" I shouted so she could hear me. "I'm at the door. Your security won't let me in." Silence. Then, "Dad, what are you doing here? I came to the party. Are you going to let me in, or should I tell the guard that you're kicking me out?" More silence. Finally, "I'm coming down now." She hung up. 5 minutes later, Julia appeared. Red dress, perfect makeup, but a pale face. She looked at me. She looked at Tobias. She looked at the folder in my hands. "Dad, this is a private party. I am your father, Julia. Are you going to let me in or not?" She hesitated. Then she gestured to the guard. "Let them in." We entered. The entryway was enormous. Italian marble floor, giant crystal chandelier, waiters with champagne trays, elegant people everywhere. Julia walked next to me, whispering, "Dad, what do you want?" I didn't answer her. I kept walking. Toward the main ballroom, the double doors were open. Inside there were easily 100 people. Live jazz music, a band in one corner, long table with food, bar, and in the back, at the main table, the Stone family, Mr. August, his wife Remedies, and next to them, my 3 children, David, Linda, and Julia's husband, Gustavo. I walked toward them. People moved out of my way. Some looked at me curiously, others surprised. Tobias was behind me, firm, like a bodyguard. We arrived at the main table. David saw me first. He stood up so fast he knocked over his glass. Wine spilled on the white tablecloth. "Dad?" His voice came out choked. Linda covered her mouth with her hand. Gustavo, Julia's husband, tried to smile. "Mr. Joseph, what a surprise." Mr. August Stone looked at me. 75 years old, white hair, impeccable suit, gold watch. He looked at me as if I were an insect. "Mr. Montgomery, I wasn't expecting to see you here." I smiled, without joy. I imagine not. I placed the brown folder on the table, right between the food plates. The dull thud made everyone turn. The room began to fall silent. The music continued, but the conversations were fading. Mr. August looked at the folder, then at me. "What is this?" I didn't answer yet. I looked at my children, one by one. David with a red face, Julia trembling, Linda with tears in her eyes. "This," I said finally, "is the truth." I opened the folder. I took out the first document. The cover of the audit, Ibarra Stone Audit, 1998, overbilling and misappropriation of public funds. I put it on the table. Mr. August turned pale. "Mr. Montgomery, is this the audit you asked me to keep quiet?" I finished the sentence for him. "Yes, the same one." I took out more papers, contracts, false invoices, irregular transfers. "In 1998, I discovered that your company diverted millions of dollars. Public works that cost 3 times the budget. Cheap materials reported as premium. Bribes to officials." I placed each document on the table, like poker cards. "I was going to deliver this to the district attorney," I continued. "But you made me an offer, silence in exchange for my son's future." I looked at David. I thought I was giving him an opportunity, a decent job, a career. I shook my head. "But what I did was sell him out. Because you didn't give him a job. You recruited him. You made him an accomplice. You taught him to do as you do." David opened his mouth. "Dad, Shut up!" My voice came out like a whip. He closed his mouth. "And my daughters?" I looked at Julia, then at Linda. "My daughters used me. They robbed me. They abandoned me on Christmas. They paid for my own dinner with my money. And then they toasted here, with you. While I waited for them alone." My voice broke at the end. But I didn't cry. I had no more tears. "You thought I was weak, that I was just a stupid old man, that I would forget, that I would forgive just because you are my blood." I took out the last documents. Martha's power of attorney, the sworn declaration. "But my wife, your mother, your grandmother, she knew. She knew what you were going to do. And she protected me." I placed the documents on the table. "You tried to declare me incompetent, send me to a nursing home, take my house, search for these documents." I hit the folder. "But you failed. Because Martha left me weapons, witnesses, legal protection, and above all, she left me the truth." The room was completely silent. Even the music had stopped. 100 pairs of eyes watching, some horrified, others fascinated, as if they were watching a movie. But this was real, terribly real. Mr. August tried to stand up. "Mr. Montgomery, this is ridiculous. You can't—" "I can't what?" I interrupted him. "Expose the truth? Defend my name? Protect myself from my own children?" I leaned over the table. I was face to face with him. "These documents are already with the district attorney. Certified copies delivered this morning, along with the evidence kept by Mr. Tobias Renteria, my witness from 26 years ago." Tobias took a step forward. He nodded. "And along with new testimonies. From employees, from contractors, from people you trampled on for years." Mr. August slumped back into his chair. Remedies, his wife, covered her mouth. Gustavo looked at the documents as if they were venomous snakes, because they were venomous to them. I straightened up. I looked at my 3 children. You might ask me why I came here, why I ruined this party, why I exposed you in front of everyone. I paused. Because I wanted you to feel what I felt. When you left me alone on December 24th, when I discovered you used my card, when I learned you had been lying to me for 15 years, I wanted you to feel shame, humiliation, betrayal. Julia was crying. David had his head down. Linda looked at me with pleading eyes. But I didn't care anymore. You chose. You chose money over me, status over family, lies over love. I took the folder. I closed it. Now I choose too. I choose you out of my life. The silence was deafening. I could hear my own breathing, my own heart beating. I took an envelope from the inside pocket of my jacket. I placed it on the table. This is a copy of everything, for you, so you know exactly what the district attorney has. I looked at Mr. August. You will decide if you want to save your company or save your lies. If you cooperate with the investigation, maybe, just maybe, you can reduce your sentence. I turned around. I started walking toward the exit. Tobias next to me. Dad, wait. It was Linda. She ran after me. She grabbed my arm. Dad, please, I'm sorry. Truly. I looked at her. I saw the little girl she was, the one who played in the yard, the one who asked me to read her stories. But that girl no longer existed. Linda, you had 1,000 opportunities to choose, to be on my side, to tell the truth. But you always chose them. I pulled myself away from her grip. Now live with that choice. I kept walking. I left the mansion. The cold December air hit my face. I took a deep breath. Free. Outside, next to Tobias's car, they were waiting. Ethan, Luke, Valerie, Chloe, Matthew, and attorney Gerald O'Connell. All there, all smiling. Matthew ran toward me. I picked him up. My back hurt, but I didn't care. Is it over, Grandpa? He asked me. I nodded. It's over, son. Chloe hugged me. I'm proud of you, Grandpa. Valerie had tears in her eyes. Mr. Joseph, you are the bravest man I know. Tobias patted me on the back. Well done, Joseph. Martha would be proud. I looked at the sky. The stars shone, clear, beautiful. Thank you, Martha, I whispered, for protecting me until the end. We left, all together in the cars toward my house, to wait for the new year. Not with blood, but with family. True family, the one I chose and the one that chose me. I spent New Year's with those who chose to be with me. Not because of blood, but because of real love. We toasted at midnight. Ethan, Luke, Valerie, Tobias, attorney Gerald, Chloe, Matthew, all laughing, all together, in my living room, in my house, which no longer felt empty. My children called me later. Julia first, crying, asking for forgiveness. I listened to her, but I didn't answer. David sent many messages, saying he didn't know that they forced him. More lies. I deleted them. Linda came to the house 3 days later. She knocked on the door. I let her in. We talked. She cried. She said she wanted to change, that she wanted to win me back. I told her, forgiveness is earned, not requested. She still comes, every week, with Matthew, little by little, maybe, just maybe. Someday I will trust again, because to forgive is not to forget. To forgive is to choose not to carry the weight of resentment anymore. But it's not going back to how it was, either. Some things break, and they don't get glued back together. They are just accepted as broken. And family. Family is not who shares your blood. Family is who stays when everything falls apart. When there is no money, when there is no prestige, when only you are left, and they choose to stay. That is family. Today, I am 79 years old. I have a house that smells of coffee and people who visit me, grandchildren who hug me for real, friends who are brothers, and documents that are no longer my burden, but my defense. The investigation continues. Ibarra Stone is in trouble. David lost his job. Julia sold her mansion. Consequences arrived, as they always do, sooner or later. The truth comes out, and when it comes out, it does not forgive. And you? Were you ever betrayed by someone who should have protected you? Did you have to choose between forgiving and freeing yourself? Between blood and dignity? Tell me below. Your story matters, because maybe someone else needs to hear it. Maybe someone else is going through the same thing, and your testimony can save them. If this story touched your heart, leave us a like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications. Every day we share real stories. Stories of pain, of betrayal, but also of liberation. The next one could be yours, or someone you know's. Thank you for listening until the end. See you in the next story.